What's the worst thing you've seen a parent do that will frick their child up for life? My mom was my biggest bully growing up. She wanted me to be one of the popular girls. Well, I developed a severe stutter when I was 8 and she used to scream at me and punish me anytime I stuttered, which only made it worse. She used to tell me that if I didn't stop the kids at school would make fun of me. The kids were nowhere near as bad as her. It took me going to a conference to see how fricked up she was. I was shocked to see so many parents supportive of their kids stuttering, but yet had very low self-esteem through my childhood, had trouble making friends, and now I have a small social group. I'm still in contact with my mother, but I don't love her. I didn't see it, but my mother told me about it. My auntie and uncle were very abusive to their eldest daughter. When she was 11, she did something to get in trouble, so my uncle pulled her pants and underwear down, smacked her ass and said, "Oh look, she's growing pubes," in front of a few people. My cousin just recently underwent ACT for depression, anxiety and bipolar. What the frick? Probably the parent who called the library screaming and threatening me because I gave her daughter the depression resources she requested. Gee, I wonder why the frick she came to the library instead of coming to you. You absolute fricking crap weasel. Pointing out their child's insecurities, mistakes in front of a large group of people, as if it were some kind of story to tell. My mother has done many things to hurt my trust with her, but out of all of it, the one thing that hurt me the most was when she told her friend, who is a big gossip, about one of my insecurities. I haven't told my mother another dang thing since that moment, and I don't plan on telling her anything ever again. My dad did a bunch of things that fricked me up, but this in particular sticks with me. When I was 16 and texting a crush, he spent the whole night reading my entire message thread. He'd read aloud the ones that sounded too needy and too much like I was being a W, and he made me stand in front of him as he sat on the sofa and read. Once in a while he'd get up to slap me or punch me in the stomach for sounding too much like a bee in heat. This is a phrase I've never been able to forget. 5 years on, the contempt in his voice when he said it, the utter assurance that I was being a needy, shameful little W. I've never been able to forget that, or the feeling that accompanied it. The texts weren't even sexual, weren't even romantic, just two people in the early stages of showing interest in each other. Your texts with your crush like that, exposed, for the whole family to hear, interspersed with the occasional jeering remark, I've never been able to get over. I still have trouble talking to people. Sometimes I'll talk to my boyfriend, my kind, loving, wonderful boyfriend, tell him I miss him or I can't wait to see him, and that phrase will ring in my ears. That is awful. I'm so sorry he did that to you. My stepmom used to tell me I'd never graduate high school and that I'd grow up to be the next Tim McVeigh. Got my bachelor's degree and haven't bombed any buildings yet, but it still hurt to hear. A girl I had driver's ed with had skipped class that day. The school called her parents, so her dad came to pick her up from the driver's ed school that was privately owned. I was in the lobby studying for the written test when I see them sitting in the parking spot directly in front of the big front windows. I was sitting still and there were like fake plants between me and the window and probably glare on the window. The dad didn't see me. He's screaming at her and he reels back and sucker punches her like she's a man. He held nothing back. Her head hit the window. He's screaming, punches her again. I stand up, completely shocked. He sees me and peels out. I tell the owners. They call the cops, but supposedly the cops couldn't do anything. She lived in the next town over, so our cops couldn't go to her house. I feel like more could have been done. They could have at least called CPS in that town or called her school to get involved. I was 15 and the owner of the driver's ed school was literally in his 70s. We were both clueless. Cops could have given us advice. If that's what he'll do in public, you know that what he does in private would be a lot worse. I helped to take care of an 11-year-old girl who gave birth, via cesarean, in the hospital I worked in as a midwife. Her father was the father of the child. Her life was obviously absolutely awful prior to being pregnant, since she was being up-ed by her own father on a regular basis. But she actually gave birth to his baby as well. There's no way you come out of an experience like that a better, stronger person. I hope he is rotting in jail. Where I work, I see many children just throwing absolute fits and the parents not doing a dang thing about it. Rarely we get really sweet, well-behaved children. The other day, there was a lady with a boy who had to have been at least 12. He was really quite polite, said hi to any employee he saw, had the cutest little chubby face. He picks up a pack of hot dogs and says, calmly I might add, do we need any of these? His mom just flipped the frick out on him. No, I told you already we have some goddamn hot dogs. I'm so freaking tired of you never listening to me. The look on the kid's face broke my heart, and I definitely don't have a soft spot for children. I just wanted to give him a hug. The thing that really got me was the woman was well dressed and acted extremely polite when she asked where something was. I wanted to just knock her out. That poor child. My daughter needed to use the toilet while we were at the mall. There are benches for people to sit and wait, and vending machines. I was thirsty so I swiped my card and started buying drinks. A boy was watching me do it, so I asked him if he wanted one. Only $1 and change. No biggie. He picked root beer. Nice choice. I sat back down and continued waiting. Then the boy's mother comes out of the bathroom. She screamed at him asking where he got the soda. He didn't answer fast enough I guess and snatched it out of his hand and slammed it against the ground, making it explode and spray 20-something people with root beer. He started crying, so she dragged him off the bench and a good 10 feet by his braids, hysterically crying, then stormed off leaving him there. No one else saw this as an emergency situation for some reason, so I just instinctively reacted and sat on the floor with him and asked if he was okay. He looked up and asked, "Are you my dad?" which is heartbreaking, but I said no. Sorry bud, and we sat there until my daughter was done using the toilet. They talked for a few minutes before his mother stormed back into the restroom area and snatched him up, this time by his bicep, and told him not to talk to chinks because we eat dogs. My daughter still brings this up regularly. I bet that boy does as well. Poor kid, can't pick your parents. So not only is she a piece of crap parent, she's a racist as well. Making them feel guilty for doing normal things. On a similar note, making them feel guilty for not knowing how to do normal things. They're kids. They're not born with any knowledge. If you ask an 8-year-old to start the dishwash machine, don't get mad at them for filling it with dish soap, resulting in a massive bubble explosion all over the kitchen floor. They were told to wash the dishes, and the bottle says dishwashing soap. Once had a kid run up to show his mom a picture he drew for her, all smiles and very proud of himself. She asks snidely, "What is it?" He says, "A train," or something like that. It was years ago. She just scoffs, says sure doesn't look like one to me, and threw it in the trash. This poor boy's face just fell. Mom of the year proceeds to collect his things, oblivious to the fact she crushed her son's self-esteem. I gave him a longer than usual hug goodbye that day. Poor little guy. Have a favorite among their children that isn't you. Disregarding their feelings instead of listening and even trying to convince them that they're in the wrong for feeling that way. Can we stop telling girls that the only reason boys are mean to them is because they like them? This only solidifies abusive relationships later in life. Baby them well into their teens. This worked at a private boarding school and happened to see one of the 15-year-olds with bare feet, and his toenails were so long they were curling. Common name, go and cut your toenails. Oh, mom does that for me when I go home at half term. Gaslighting them. My mom still does this constantly. She screamed at me recently for not being home on time. She never said to be home at a time. I have messages saying to just come home whenever. She insists we had a conversation after that, but we did not. As a result of this, I am afraid of her, have severe anxiety that I have to take several medications for, and constantly doubt myself. I also have a problem where I screenshot texts constantly to prove that someone has really said that, despite this being a problem only with my mother. I have an entire folder on my phone. I used to be a teacher, and some parents have so much anxiety about raising their child to be amazing that the slightest hint of misbehavior, injury, or academic non-achievement is taken as a neon sign saying bad parent here. A kid hits another kid. I'm going to let the parents know that I've spoken to the kid and I'd like them to follow through with reinforcing that behavior isn't okay. Some parents were like, my child doesn't do that, and I'm like, look, I saw it and it did happen. But it's okay because the kid is 5 and we'll help to bring them through that if we work together. But no, you have to act like I'm a liar trying to bring down your kid and ruin their future. Another one was a kid tripping in the sandpit. A bit of a shock for him, but he was fine. I was standing talking to his mum at the time, and while I said, "Whoops, you okay, buddy?" knowing he was fine, his mum went over, scooped him up, and was rocking him up and down cooing over him. He had really long gangly limbs and they were hanging awkwardly all over the place while he bobbed up and down. It was such an unnecessary overreaction to an utterly minor incident, and I worry about that kid ever doing so much as wiping his own bum again. They blame everything as their kid, abuse them and make the kid apologize for it, yell at them for the littlest crap, not care what their kid wants and claim that they're doing it for the kid's own good, thinking that what they say is true when it's 100% not. My parents have lowered my self-esteem, made me feel like crap. I've just recently opened up to my friends about this abuse and it felt good having someone care. Damaging a kid so much to the point where they feel like crap for everything that they do if they do it right or wrong is awful. One time I stopped taking antibiotics for a couple days because it looked like I was feeling better. They call my twitching a habit, and when I try to say that I can't control, I've had mental breakdowns in front of my extended family, and my parents acted like they were in the right by yelling at me multiple times. Abandoned them. My wife's mom, when my wife was 5, would leave her at 6 PM and tell her she's going out for a few minutes and will be back in a couple hours. She wouldn't. She would be gone for days, weeks on a heroin binge. She told me she would stay up all night for days in a row waiting for her. My wife now is an amazing, smart, successful woman, but I can totally see how this really fricked her up. Well, that's freaking sad. Glad she's doing okay despite her horrible upbringing. Constantly tell them how expensive it is to take care of their children and how their lives would have been better off without them. Literally not teach their kid any basic adult skills. I have a friend who is 34 and only just in the last few years learning how to cook and fully take care of himself. My husband taught me how to cook, clean, pay bills, how credit cards worked, how to drive, and a whole host of other adult skills I had no idea how to do. It's awful how common it is for young adults on their own to have no idea how to take care of themselves. I'm gonna say, when a parent constantly tries to pawn you off on the other because they secretly don't like your company and also have conditioned you to report back to them the other parent's activities. Neither of parents liked my company because I asked too many questions. They both grew to resent me because of the role they put me in. It took a lot to forgive them and I'll still never trust them. As a primary school teacher, I hate when I see the following scenario. Parent takes their young kid out to a park, cafe, etc. Parent hands out a phone or iPad and sets the kid up with some video or game. Parent proceeds to either whip out their own phone and ignore the kid, or talk to a friend and ignore the kid. Children's language development is so heavily influenced by early interactions with caregivers. The best thing a parent can do is talk to their child early and often. Even when your child is a baby and baby talk is cute, don't only go widow like a whittle tickle on your boo-boo. Even if you feel like an idiot, just chat to your baby. Oh look, we're changing your nappy. What else should we do today? Maybe poo in your nappy? Sounds good. As your child gets older and you take them out in the world, name things even when they're too young to converse with you. See that, Jack? That's a train. See its wheels? They help it move. The train goes choo-choo. The child's vocabulary will increase the more words you introduce. When reading begins, your child may not understand that the letters TRAIN spell train, but they see a picture of a train in the book. They've seen that thing before. Dad called it a train. Therefore those letters on the page must make up the word train. Also, read to your kids early. Show them how a book works, how to turn pages, how to read left to right. Sometimes I think some parents assume their role in early literacy and mathematics development isn't important and they can just drop their kid off at school and we'll sit them down with flashcards and teach them every word they need to know. Not true. Kids who are successful readers and writers start early, are encouraged by their parents, and are spoken to all the time. Do not ignore your kid in favor of plonking them in front of a screen. The effects on speech development are real. Forcing them into sports they don't have a passion for, or did once but is now ruined. Criticism. high expectations and uneducated approaches to training and participation. Too many talented kids have gone astray because of the pressure from their parents. Oh, it's my area of expertise. Hit their children. The scientific evidence against hitting kids is solid. The evidence for hitting kids is always some rando saying my parent hit me and I turned out alright. Let their children be around adults they have bad feelings about. Those bad feelings are usually something is wrong, but I can't articulate what. It's because creeps don't just groom the kid, they groom the parent as well. Perpetuate BS like racism and sexism. Just feed them mindlessly with whatever hate they were fed. Do you want your kid to grow up maladjusted and unable to have healthy relationships? Great, just don't check your own nonsense and share it with them. Let them see you hit your partner. Seriously, there's a reason why CPS considers it abuse to if your child sees you hit your partner. Freaking stop it. I've heard but I never hit my kid from abusers plenty, but it's BS. Do drugs or get drunk around them, especially when they're very small. Knock that crap off. Can you imagine how scary it is for kids to see mom and dad fricked up? You are the thing keeping the kids safe. When they see you fricked up, their world feels fricked up and unreliable. Not enforcing boundaries. I'll say it loud for people in the back. Kids need rules. Not giving them appropriate discipline. You can't just mindlessly apply the same discipline on kids without respect for their personalities and experiences. There are some kids that a sharp word will have them crying for the rest of the night, and some that laugh it off and need the stern talking to for a while. Don't confuse one for the other, or you'll have the more sensitive kid living in fear of authority for life, and the more typical kid disrespectful of authority. Not react when something's going wrong. Is your kid acting sad all the time? Angry? Isolating themselves? Defiant? Behavior changing suddenly? Don't just think this will blow over. Get your kid to therapy. My mother would consistently threaten to return me to my birth mother. Didn't help, all I heard of her was cokehead or MW. When I used to work at the theater, I saw a few parents bring their newborns and toddlers to R-rated films. And not just the loud action movies but horrors too. Then you'd hear kids screaming and crying not even halfway through the movie, and the staff would get tons of complaints from everyone in that auditorium. But we weren't allowed to ask them to leave because they're paying customers. Me and my friends were on a trip and, because something got messed up along the way, we lost the meal we had for lunch. So we went to fast food, I think it was Burger King. Anyway, there was this woman with her son and daughter, and the son got this giant meal. He was about 7 and this was meal for like 40-year-old fat dude. And that girl got a drink. The whole time we were in there she was asking her mom if she could get something too, and her mom was like, no honey, you have to lose weight. Like, I get it. If you want someone to lose weight then you don't buy them burger. But who the heck lets their obviously hungry child watch someone eat a whole plate of food? What the heck is wrong with that woman? I was at a restaurant once where a dad told his son he was going to watch everyone else eat and not have anything for the rest of the day. BC of how he acted. PPLR fricked. You've been visited by Professor Papa. You'll ace all your classes this year only if you comment study hard Papa. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video. Or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.